Part 1. The exact moment a man quietly dies inside and doesn't even know it. Every man, whether he admits it or not, arrives at a moment. A moment so silent, so devastating, that it feels less like heartbreak and more like a quiet funeral for his own soul. It's not when she leaves. It's not when she stops loving him. It's not even when she cheats. It's when he wakes up one morning and realizes none of it ever mattered. His patience, his loyalty, the nights he stayed awake just to listen, the times he swallowed his needs just to keep the peace, all of it went unnoticed. Not because he wasn't worthy, but because he was always there, always reachable, always ready, always bleeding out the best parts of himself for someone who never once asked, "Are you okay?" And in that brutal moment, something inside dies. But he doesn't cry, he doesn't fight, he doesn't even speak. He just disappears. Not from the world, but from the pedestal he was placed on. A pedestal built from his own hands, out of desperation to be chosen, to be seen, to be enough. But this is not the story of a man who gave up. This is the story of a man who finally woke up. And if you're listening, you know it's time to wake up too. Part 2. Why she stopped respecting you, and how your desperation made you invisible. You're not exhausted because life is cruel. You're exhausted because you've been bleeding your soul into hands that never knew how to hold it. And no one taught you how dangerous that is. Every reply you send the second her name lights up your phone. Every late night conversation you force yourself to endure, even when your mind is crumbling. Every time you absorb her storms, thinking this is what it means to be a man. It's not love. It's a slow suicide. And Carl Jung would have called it what it is, a loss of soul. He wrote, "The man who is not aware of his own psychological depths becomes a puppet of his environment." That's you, a puppet, dancing to her moods, orbiting her needs, chasing validation like a starving dog waiting for scraps. You don't see it yet, but this is why she doesn't respect you anymore. Because no woman can admire a man who's always available. She may appreciate him, she may use him, but she does not crave him. Why? Because you made yourself predictable, and Jung warned us. Without emotion, there is no transformation. But you gave her emotion on demand. You gave her comfort when she was bored, attention when she was empty, energy when you had none to spare. There was nothing unpredictable left about you. She knew every response before you spoke it. She knew you'd never say no, never walk away, never risk losing her by standing your ground. And as Jung said, where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking. You gave her all the power. She gave you less love, not because she's cruel, but because humans, by nature, devalue anything they can control. Jung also wrote, "We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. And right now, every version of you that tried to please her, save her, fix her, they all wore a disguise, each more pathetic than the last. Because deep down, you didn't just want to love her, you wanted to matter. And here's the truth. You will never matter to someone who didn't have to earn you. This is why the first step in reclaiming yourself is this. Withdraw the lifeline, not as punishment, but as CPR for your soul. You've been leaking energy, bleeding significance, starving for a smile, a text, a crumb of affection. And Jung would call this a psychic imbalance, a collapse of the self into dependency. He said, "Nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their environment, and especially on their children, than the unlived life of the parent. Your unlived life is killing you. You became her satellite. But who orbits you? She doesn't feel your presence anymore because you've made yourself an emotional vending machine. Press a button, get your love. And now she doesn't even have to press. You just offer." Jung taught that the path to individuation, becoming a whole man, requires walking alone. He wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But you can't become that man while you're still bleeding for someone else's comfort. So stop explaining, stop justifying, stop reacting. When you remove yourself from the emotional economy, where affection is just another transaction, the rules change. She can't manipulate what she can't move. She can't seduce what she can't predict. And most of all, she can't define a man who has remembered his soul. You don't need to hate her. You just need to remember you. Because, as Jung wrote, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But that's the only thing that can resurrect you. Part 3, How to Kill the Weak Man She Created and Resurrect the One She Can't Control. A man's soul doesn't die in one brutal moment. It dies slowly, by 1,000 cuts of his own making. Each time you answered when you wanted silence. Each time you agreed when your gut screamed no. Each time you explained yourself to avoid her coldness. Little by little, you traded pieces of your soul just to stay close. And Carl Jung warned us, every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol, morphine, or idealism. Your addiction was her approval. You chased it like a drug, believing that if you gave more of yourself, she would finally love the real you. But she never did, because she couldn't. She didn't love you. She loved the man who orbited her chaos, the one who played therapist to her pain, who became an accessory to her emotional wardrobe. And she tested you over and over, not because she wanted to destroy you, but because she wanted to feel something. She wanted to feel a boundary, a wall, a spine, but you gave her none, and so she grew bored, she grew cold. Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. You became her distraction from herself. But the moment you choose to withdraw, not physically, not angrily, but energetically, something shifts. She feels it immediately. The silence, the stillness, the boundary she can't cross. At first, she'll test harder. She'll provoke, she'll poke, she'll disappear just to see if you'll chase. But you won't, because now you know. A man's worth is not measured by his availability, but by his unpredictability. Jung wrote, the shadow is a tight passage, a narrow door whose painful constriction no one is spared who goes down to the deep well. Your shadow, the part of you that needs to be needed, is now standing in front of that door. And most men run from it. But you go deeper. Every urge to reply, you resist. Every need to fix, you release. Every guilt trip she hurls your way, you smile inwardly because you know she's not attacking you. She's attacking the boundary you finally built. This is where your resurrection begins. Not in rage, not in revenge, but in stillness. Because nothing terrifies a woman who's used to controlling a man more than his peace. Your peace is power. Your silence is power. Your distance is power. Jung said it clearly. The man who does not confront his shadow becomes possessed by it. But you've confronted it. You faced the unbearable truth that she didn't love the man you are. She loved the man you performed. But now the performance is over. You're not cruel. You're clean. Your soul has stopped hemorrhaging. You're no longer her therapist, her emotional sponge, her predictable yes man. You are becoming something rare, a man who is unavailable. Not out of bitterness, but out of reverence for his own energy. And in that unavailability, everything shifts. She doesn't know how to provoke you anymore. She doesn't know how to guilt you anymore. She doesn't know how to reach you anymore. Because for the first time, you are no longer orbiting her world. You are your own gravity. This is what Jung meant when he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Your unconscious need to be needed is dead, and in its place stands a man who needs nothing. Part 4, The Unavailable Man. Why your silence will make you feared, respected, and remembered. There will come a morning, quiet, ordinary, when you'll wake up and feel it. The stillness, the absence of urgency, the silence in your bones where there used to be noise. No impulse to check your phone, no ache to prove your worth, no anxiety about whether she cares today. You'll sip your coffee, feel the wind, listen to the birds, and you'll realize you've crossed over. You are no longer orbiting anyone. You've become your own gravity. And that's the law of masculine power. The privilege of a lifetime, Jung wrote, is to become who you truly are. you've become him. The man who doesn't beg to be chosen, the man who doesn't perform for approval, the man who is his own son. This is not about rejecting women. It's about no longer needing them to feel whole. And paradoxically, that is what makes you unforgettable. Because women feel it before they understand it. You walk into a room and you don't even need to speak. Your presence alone says, I am not here to impress you. I am here because I chose to be. That presence shakes them because they can't map you, they can't profile you, they can't reduce you to a script. You are not a brochure. You are a hardcover mystery, written in a language only solitude can teach. She may try to re-enter, first with kindness, then with guilt, then with accusations. You've changed. You're cold. You're selfish. But those are the names people give to men they can no longer use. You don't have to explain. You don't have to argue. You don't even have to respond, because your silence has become your sanctuary. And in that silence, you train the world how to treat you. You teach her that your attention is earned, not expected, that your presence is rare, not a given, that your distance is not punishment, it's protection. You are no longer an emotional ATM, no longer her emergency therapist, no longer the predictable yes. You are a sovereign man, and in a world that demands your endless availability, your distance becomes your revolution. Jung taught that individuation, the becoming of your true self, is a sacred exile, a pulling away from false roles, false affections, false duties. It's a lonely path, yes, but only in that solitude do you meet the man you were meant to be. A man whose words are few but heavy, whose presence is rare but unforgettable. Whole men do not explain their boundaries. Whole men do not negotiate their peace. Whole men walk away in silence and build empires in that silence. And if you're listening right now and something stirs in your chest, pay attention. That's not bitterness. That's not heartbreak. That's your soul waking up. So start small. Delay your reply. Say no without apology. Sit with the discomfort of her disappointment. Let her miss you. Let her wonder. Not to punish her, but to resurrect you. And when the loneliness creeps in, and it will, don't run. Let it forge you, let it sharpen you, let it remind you that the man who can sit alone in his silence, untouched, unchosen, and still feel whole, that is the man no one can replace. And if this message stirred something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with the man who's still bleeding for validation. Subscribe for more of the truth no one teaches us. Because this is not content. This is a revolt, and it begins with your silence. We'll see you in the next one.